I need help, boss.
Stands up and says it louder. He goes, I have a really big penis.
We're the NSAA. We're never serious about anything except grip ball.
I have drifted an aircraft carrier.
What?
To an extent, but you'd be out there alone as fuck. There's no.
Just bumping into people by osmosis of dopeness, you know?
3, 2, 1. We're gone.
Welcome back to the Happy Hoodlums podcast, everybody. It's your host, Kemper Woodruff. I got the very powerful co-host of mine, Mr. Zack Sampson. And our guest tonight is superpowered himself. His name is Angelo Michael De Leso because he motherfucking say so. And y'all can remember that. What a Happy Hoodlums worthy guest. And we want to say welcome, Angelo, to give the viewers a little backstory. I happen to be on a quest to just try and find some stuff, actually, to help detoxify myself and then also the people that I live with, you know. So I was on my way to New Seasons and I happened to see him out in front with his mom standing there selling some detox stuff and some health products. And I started talking to him and his soul just kind of resonated with me and really hit me, his story. And I only got un poquito, only a little bit of it. So tonight we're all gonna really allow Angelo to unpack everything that he's about in his own way. And we're just here to enjoy that ride, you know? So this is probably going to be health centric and I'm probably going to be learning things. So bear with me and pardon my ignorance in advance. And Angelo, go ahead and take it from there.
Thank you, Kemper. Thank you, Jack. So good to be here with you, brothers. I appreciate the space, the platform, gratitudes all around. So, you know what, man? It was very serendipitous that I met you doing what I love and that you're also on a mission. I think we're all on a mission for healing, higher levels of health in all ways. Like, it's not just about food or exercise. It's about mental health, financial health, freedom, holistic lifestyle. You know, a lot of people are suffering right now in our world. And so my mission, as lofty as it might sound, is to help end human suffering in any way that I can. And for a long time in my life, I was very traumatized. I think trauma is a part of everybody's life. I mean, we go through from birth, when we're, born and the cord is cut, to when we're weaned off of the teat. We are in some level of trauma constantly. It might be smaller traumas than others, but a lot of us have gone through health issues, especially in today's day and age. My big health issue in my life, if I had to write the book on my life so far, would have been my diagnosis about 9 years ago with a allegedly terminal brain tumor. So that was in 2013. I was 37 years old. I'd been living a mostly healthy life, I thought. I was eating plant-based. But one thing I didn't realize was I was eating a lot of processed foods. I was eating a lot of fake meats. I thought I was being healthy, but I was also drinking and all these processed foods, alcohol, things like that, loaded with a chemical. And this chemical is very pervasive and omnipresent. And most people don't even know that it exists, but it has made some news recently because of Monsanto, now owned by Bayer, had lawsuits against them by several people that are now being heard in court. And this chemical is called glyphosate. And Dr. Zack, one of the leading soil scientists that I know of, he talks about this in great depth about how it not only affects the weeds, and it's an antibiotic, a desiccant, and a weed killer. It also affects the pathway in our own gut microbiome called the Shikamit Pathway. It's the same. It's similar to that in the soil. So I came to understand that chronic inflammation and stress is what leads to all disease in our body and in our lives. So if we're always in a state of stress, or if we're eating foods that stress us out on a cellular level, over time, that's going to bioaccumulate, and eventually we are going to have that. It's going to express itself in some form of disease in our body. Hopefully, most people don't even see it because 70% of Americans are overweight right now, and over 40% are obese, according to body mass index and the government's own reports. We're spending so much money right now on healthcare in our country, but yet we are ranking very low in quality of life. We have longer lives, but we have a lower quality of life. And I think at the last time I looked it up, about 40% of people are expected to be diagnosed with some form of cancer in his or her lifetime. So that's staggering numbers. Like, if people aren't aware of that, or they just accept that. For me, the diagnosis with a brain tumor was like, holy shit, you go through so many different friggin' emotions. First it's denial, then it's grief, and then it's like sadness. It's like, it's all these different things. And then I was working in the craft brewing industry for 15 or 20 years, making beer, selling beer, advocating beer, writing about beer. And my life and my passion was that community, because everybody needs community, everybody needs purpose. And for me, the glue that bound all of that was craft beer. And it's a good community of people, very, very warm and giving. When I was diagnosed and I lost all my money to medical bankruptcy, these people stepped up and helped me tremendously. The one thing that was hard was step away from that which didn't serve me, which was drinking beer and wine. Not only is alcohol a neuro and gut toxin, that the main ingredients in beer, which are malt, with barley malt, wheat or whatever, and hops, are heavily sprayed crops, because you can't get those things to grow unless you're spraying them. So the people they're getting basically a concoction of Monsanto glyphosate in alcohol tincture form. And we all know that modern wheat and modern barley are two of the most contaminated crops right now in our world, in North America, especially Canada and the United States, because of glyphosate. I believe it's wheat, corn, soy, canola. Those are the four most contaminated crops.
That's in like everything.
I mean, soy is the number one grown crop. Like, so all the people think, the big movement to plant-based was tofu, right? Fake meats and all that stuff. So this is processed foods, genetically modified foods. It's really changed the game. And that's where Monsanto comes in. They're now owned by Bayer Munich in Germany. But I'm giving you a little bit of backstory about the chemicals that I believe cause so much harm to people and so much chronic inflammation, because, Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. So if that's true, then what I had to start somewhere within my gut, my body not being able to rid itself of some of these chemicals. And most people are exposed to large loads of glyphosate. I think the most heavily contaminated food in the stores is Cheerios and Quaker Oats, because those are not organic, they're sprayed, and there's a massive profit margin on those foods.
Dang,
They're
that's crazy.
Yeah, so that's it, really.
Yeah, I have some questions behind that. I have a lot of questions. One, do you feel that glyphosate, in choosing to go down this path where you were drinking a lot of beer in particular because of that industry, and your community, and just naturally, it just felt good, that was your lifestyle. Do you think that played into you developing inflammation, or how do you think it played a role in your brain tumor, I guess, and in your diagnosis, or what's your thoughts on that? Because I want to separate the two, so that way it's not like people could ever say, hey, or misconstrue what you're saying, or think that you have any kind of angle, because clearly you're just letting people know and informing them. But I want to make it known, because what you're saying is true, but it has big names involved, and some people, it's hard for them to stomach. You see Bayer aspirin and Cheerios everywhere, and they're always promoted in such favorable light, right? Because they're the ones
fortified food sprayed with isolates in the field. So when you ever see a breakfast cereal that says fortified, they're spraying actually like iron onto the food. They're not, and you can take a magnet and crush all the food up with water, and you can actually see the magnet pull pieces of heavy metals out of the food. The average person today consumes about a credit card size or 5 grams worth of microplastics like every single week. Like that's in
yeah.
1 week, 5
That's
grams.
just crazy.
And like
crazy.
that's stuck in our gut. We have 30 feet of intestinal tract, and 25 feet of that is our small intestine and colon. So if you think about that, it's about 5 times your height is your intestines, and about 5/6 of that intestines is your small intestine. And that's where a lot of stuff gets clogged up. That's where there's a lot of excessive mucus, because when the body gets exposed to chronic inflammation, like microplastics, heavy metals, glyphosate, other herbicides, fungicides, that all becomes mucus in the body, because the body uses mucus as a way of flushing toxins. You know, when you get a cold, you get a lot of mucus, your nose runs, because your body's trying to push it out. And chronic mucus creates mucoid plaque in the gut. Have you ever seen those videos of people pulling these big strings of like shit out of somebody's gut? That's this chronic mucus that people have had lodged in their body. I read a study recently that says the average American has between 7 and 25 pounds of excessive fecal matter in their small intestine that's also full of all these other contaminants that it doesn't know how to flush. So the number one reason why people go to the hospital today in America is constipation. That's the number one reasoning for entering an ER is constipation. So
What?
I used to have something to do with the gut. It's always gut related.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I had diarrhea for years and just thought that's normal because I was drinking, and I had constipation, diarrhea. Sometimes it would be good. It was like very rare that I would have healthy bowel movements. And I think a lot of people don't understand that your bowel movement is a very clear way of telling the state of your health. And when you clean your gut, you'll notice like mental acuity enhances significantly. And all of this is through food medicine. So to answer your question more succinctly, Kemper, I can't say that that's the reason why. There's so many environmental toxins that we're being exposed to today, like radiation. 5G is prolific in the last couple years, but even before that, 4G, 3G, these high EMF loads that we're being exposed to in the earth. People have become disconnected from nature in a big way. More time on our screens, more time in front of a computer. And also these levels of stress are not just, toxic stress from food, but it's mental stress, because think about the amount of information and technology that we're exposed to in about 5 minutes. It's probably more than a human being 100 years ago would be experiencing in a lifetime. Like, Instagram, think about all the stuff your subconscious brain is processing all the time. You're in traffic, you're living these busy lives. We're not very present. So this is stress. I mean, and also having like traumas that we don't heal, and still we're trying to, it starts to bioaccumulate or emotionally accumulate in our body. So people want to separate the emotional, spiritual, and physical body, but really they're all interconnected in so many ways. It's all about being a well-integrated human being. But I think nutrition is a great way to get to the bottom of it in a way. It's just one pillar, but it's a big one.
Yes, because there's chemicals and physical manifestations that explain what's going on energetically in terms of just the flow of your circuitry. So I know what you're saying. And in regards to that, one thing I've noticed, especially with myself, the more that I focus on philosophy, and like as I'm digesting what I'm watching, I'm narrating. And what people don't realize is every time a frame changes from one thing to the next, your eyes are constantly scanning that screen, and having to digest what's changing and what's happening. And so you're overstimulating your brain, and as you're breathing and focusing in your head, you're actually no longer stimulating the rest of your chakra system as you breathe. And so your chi becomes imbalanced because you start breathing and giving so much attention to your head that you start using your head to try and reason with other aspects of your life that are meant to be housed in other areas. And we become disconnected from intimacy, and start dissociating into our brain, and we can't get turned on without our brain being turned on, because there's this disconnect that can happen, and it can be on in one moment and off in another, you know. And that's how a lot of people are experiencing life and blaming one another for our inability to be present. But I have a question, Zach. What do you think about this so far? Because I know you got something. Zach is into health stuff, and I was telling him before this interview, I was like, I know you got something on this.
Well, there's a lot. So the biggest one that if you're a meat eater, there's a lot of things that kind of go into wanting to be a healthy meat eater and be a thoughtful one at the same time, right? So in meat, there's a lot of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, because of factory farming and things like that. These animals are treated terribly from the time that they're raised to the time that they're slaughtered. And all of that stress gets into the meat and passes it on to us. So that creates the stress. But then I also take it a little bit further, and I prefer to get like the most ethical acquired meat possible, right? So an example of that would be like, there's this company. This is an extreme ethical form of meat, though. There's this company called like Maui Mui or something like that. And what they do in Maui, there's an overpopulation of this deer, this Mui deer, I think is what it's called. And the way that they hunt these deer is at night. So they basically can't see anything. They're chill. And with suppressors. And they shoot them directly in the head, and there's like no stress. It's so quiet that none of the other deers react when it happens. And the way that a lot of people have talked about this company's meat is that it's like extremely good. And so it's like,
Dude,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, when I went to Canada, the meat in Canada is amazing.
Oh, I bet.
Like
they have
just
higher standards in other countries, bro. I seen a list of popular brands like Lay's, Snickers, all these popular like snack brands from one country compared to America, and the lists of banned chemicals that are in the ones in America is crazy, bro. It's insane.
Yeah.
There's like a list of 10 chemicals that one country doesn't allow in their food, but is allowed in America, and it's in there.
This is what bugged me out. I watched my stepdad's family like grill a burger.
Yeah.
And it didn't fucking shrink. Like in America, you grill a burger and that bitch shrinks, bro.
It's all the fat coming out. There's no fat in those animals.
It is just the same size that you put it on there, crisp. You know what I'm saying?
So it's like you can't put a massive ball of meat on that bitch, because then you'll end up with a 14-pound hamburger.
Dude, all I know is it's true. That meat in Canada is the truth.
I believe you, dude.
It's so true what you say, Zach. I mean, that I've been focusing on that a lot lately for my Instagram content to share that with people. There's more than 30 ingredients in the United States that are banned in most of the EU, and even in Mexico, China, and Russia. So the US and Canada are like spraying that glyphosate hard, and they're also stuff like high fructose corn sugar, MSG. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Food colorings that are banned, like Red Lake 40, Yellow 2. These things are all been proven to create ADHD and cancer-causing agents. That right there is poison right there that he's showing you, because that red is coming from an artificial coloring. So definitely that. That's going to create some kind of neurodysbiosis over time, because it probably has corn sugar in it too, instead of, real sugar. So fruits are the way to go, really. I would say a lot of people are using food like stuffs. There's Pop-Tarts, which have TBHQ in it. TBHQ, it's a petroleum product. They use it in Subway bread also. That's been banned in other countries across the board. Lucky Charms has tricalcium phosphate, which has been banned in other countries. What else we got? We've got Lucky Charms, same thing. All these chemicals banned. So if you look at all the mainstream General Mills, Kellogg's breakfast cereals, they also make Pop-Tarts. The most poisonous foods you can find. Stovetop stuffing, Little Debbie's. This shit's banned in all of Europe. So in America, have it at it. Like, eat up, good, bon appetit, and it's poison. Ritz crackers banned in all of Europe. So
What?
yeah,
Yo,
That's nuts.
so you're gonna look at
pressing
ingredients.
a lot.
They, like Zack said, though, they have a version of it over there that it has they don't
clean.
put those chemicals in it. Same with McDonald's, like the McDonald's French fries that they use in England, even though it's still crap, they can't use some of the types of seed oils, cause high amounts of inflammation because they're free radicals in any kind of seed oil besides like hemp oil. But most seed oils, safflower oils, potato chips, all these things, they're full of poisons.
What's a free radical?
Well, basically what happens is when these food-like substances go into the body does not recognize it as food. So it becomes floating through like a leak through the gut wall. That some people call it leaky gut syndrome or whatever it is. And it starts floating around, creating a level of sepsis in the body. So without having a way to flush it out, the body has 4 main pumps, and 2 of those is like the lymphatic system, where most of the toxins get stored in. That's why people get like cellulite, especially women, because women have more fat on their bodies than men. But I had cellulite when I was younger. It's because the body can't flush itself from all these toxins, all these processed ingredients. So the liver can't flush it. The kidneys don't know what to do with it. So it stores in fat tissue, it stores in the colon, and it stores in the lymphatic system. So that's what happens for a lot of people that are eating like processed food on a daily basis. And when you're young, in your 20s and 30s, you don't really notice this until you probably get into your mid 30s or 40s, when your body's endocrine system, which is makes all the hormones for our entire body, that starts to break down when we're using like household cleaners or detergents for our laundry soaps. You ever been over to somebody's place and all their laundry smells like freaking Tide, or like it has like that huge smell? They have all these phthalates and they use aluminum in their deodorants, all of this stuff. People are doing that their whole life. They're putting barium or aluminum right onto their lymphatic system right here, and it's like, what is that all about? Brushing your teeth with fluoride that's going to calcify the pineal gland. People have no idea the amount of poison that they're doing to their body, because no government regulatory agency is going to stand up against this because of lobbying, because the amount of money they can make off of us. And other countries, they do actually have some level of like, you can't do that. You can have too much sugar if you want to. That's probably legal in every country, but you can't have high fructose corn sugar. You can't have MSG. You can't have all these colorings and additives that create these free radicals. Now, you can flush free radicals out of your body by doing a cleanse. You can take certain foods that help facilitate that. Intermittent fasting. Like, most people just eat too much. They eat too much and they eat like throughout the entire day. And that's really hard on your body because more is coming in than's going out. Or some of the stuff just sticks in the body for a long time.
Yeah. And so all right, let's go back a little bit, because I'm so fascinated with how much you know and how articulate you are. And when you began your journey, let's start as a kid, let's go way, way back. What were you like as a kid, and what were some of the things that you were into? And how did you get into, this craft brew scene? Take us through there, and in whatever way you feel.
All right, cool. Well, I grew up as a baby. My parents moved out of Worcester, Massachusetts, which is the second largest city in New England after Boston. They moved about 5 hours north. My father wanted to live off the land and be kind of like a Henry David Thoreau transcendentalist. And so we moved up near Moosehead Lake in Maine, middle of nowhere, like black flies, mosquitoes. Like, it was the harshest weather, 7-8 months of winter a year, but beautiful, pristine land, right? So my dad built a log home that we lived in with wood stoves, and my mother, she would grow food on the land, and we had a garden, and she would can fruits and vegetables and cellar them under the house. We had a spring. We lived completely like healthy in a way. We had no money, like barely could make any money. But when you live that close to the earth, you don't really need a lot of money. We had, like, my parents had one car, they didn't have a phone, we didn't have running water for a while, we had a hand pump well, but eventually, like, it came to a point, and I think I was born in 1976. And so by the time I was probably about 6 or 7 years old, that's when this whole glyphosate thing, genetically modified foods, just started getting into the scene. And so you go even to the little supermarket in town, like 20 miles away, and you would see Cheerios on the shelf. And all this stuff started going down that road of pesticides and herbicides, because they can grow more and they can keep monocropping all this stuff. So my mom didn't know that Cheerios were bad. She didn't want us to have sugared cereals. So we would have, like, what is it? Grape nuts or Kix or stuff that was like whole grain foods. We thought Kellogg's, eating whole grains. You see the commercials every Saturday morning, part of your complete breakfast. We weren't glued to the TV all day. We got like 2 channels from like an antenna. So we could watch Saturday morning cartoons when I was a little kid. But that was like not much really. But that's where the programming kind of began. Commercials, and people, that's why they call it programming. Because you're seeing this is food. And every morning when you're watching those cartoons, it always shows like pasteurized orange juice, which is not good for you. It's just straight sugar. Or, Lucky Charms, or toys with foods and all this stuff. So we didn't know any different. My mom was very wise to this stuff, but some of that stuff just got through. And we'd go to a butcher and we would get our meats. We had relationships with farmers, but we moved ahead into like the 90s. And as I moved into the city after I left Maine and became more living in Boston and then out to the West Coast, I just stopped thinking about the foods that affected me. I was more about ethics of animal ethics, not like food ethics and the food carbon imprint. And just what Zack was saying about how ethical those animals are raised. I don't think it's bad to eat meat. I think eating meat is right for most people in some capacity, but he's right about the factory farm foods. We used to eat moose and deer. My dad would hunt. We'd get meat from people. We'd share it, like kind of like tribalism, even though it was hunted with a gun and stuff. It was like we weren't out trying to like trophy hunt, but my dad would shoot squirrels and pheasant and all these.
Of course, you were hunting for life. Humans fucking hunt. You know what I mean? Like, people can feel how they want. We've always fucking hunted. Like, there's something sacred in certain spaces, and I'm not a hunter. I've never been hunting, but I've definitely fought, and I've won and I've lost in that arena. And I would definitely, have had sex before. And I know that those are 2 arenas of life that are perfect prime examples of just something that's sacred and just as a part of nature,
Exactly.
at some point or another. Before you go back into where you were, what's monocrop agriculture? Can you explain that in a short little synopsis?
Yeah, so if you go back to the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression, when there was no food, everything was dust, it's because we're till farming over and over again on the same soil and didn't realize America has the most pristine land, but very quickly, in like 100 years or less, all that soil turned to dust because we were just growing the same crops over and over. That's monocropping essentially. And what got us out of that in some capacity was using phosphorus and using petroleum fertilizers. And they called it the Green Revolution. And that's what led us out of the Dust Bowl and the New Green Deal and like FDR. And so what happened in that time was they were using chemicals to grow greens. But what they didn't understand is these chemicals were toxic to people. They were using DDT. They were using other phosphorus chemicals. And also on top of that, these foods were deplete of enzymes and minerals and other nutrients that we needed, because I was talking about that Shikamit Pathway, soil, stomach has both. People have been eating foods that have been depleted and depleted and depleted. And today, because of monocropping, over till cropping, not biodynamic agriculture, right now we're seeing a rapid decline in the last 50 years, 100 years of topsoil. So soil scientists like Dr. Zack say that we have about 50 or 60 generations of topsoil left if we keep farming at this rate, because we're pouring, Monsanto into the soil so that we can keep getting corn and soy and all this stuff. We don't have to miss a season. But if you honor the soil, you would like take a year off, plant a cover crop, let it restore, come back. But it's just like these farmers have to make money, and they're just doing it because they're getting government subsidies to do it. So that's really what monocropping is and how it affects us in such a negative way.
That was extremely succinct and well put. So thank you for being concise on that. I learned some stuff in there too, because, it's one thing to know what something is. And I was listening to TD Jakes, and he was saying something in a snippet, and he said, in Europe, he was talking about getting his friend to invest with him or talk about schooling systems and things like that. And he said in Europe, they teach you how to think. And in America, we teach you how to find the right answer. And so we wind up learning the definition of, say, monocrop, but having no contextualized reasoning for how it's affecting us, and what we should really do with this information. We just have this information now. And it's like, all right, oh, I know somebody that told me about monocrop or does monocropping, but what the fuck is, like, it doesn't really, it needs to go beyond that, and I think
profit first and everything else second. That's really what it is, and that's a big part of unfettered capitalism. Capitalism's great. It's what our country's built on and what makes America great. But unfettered capitalism without any sort of regulatory oversight for a respect for the environment, that's where the two extreme parties, far left, far right, have to come together and realize that basically we're destroying our own resources. We're the only animal that I know of that's basically destroying our own life on Earth, and we're taking a lot of other species with us too. So yeah, that's important to understand. Most people don't get that, and we all make unconscious decisions every day, like buying things in plastic. Everybody does it. It's everywhere. We all are contributing to soil compaction and decimation of our waterways. It's at this point, who knows if we can repair it, because it's gone so far. But we're facing potentially a 5th grade extinction event on our planet. But how do we change this? The solution, we all know the problems to some extent, but the solution is our own personal choices. Our vote is our dollar. Our vote is our thought. It's how are we going to respond in a way that's most optimal to the planet. Not everybody can have a garden in their yard. Not everybody, especially people that live in cities, and more people are living in cities today than ever before. And it's estimated by some people that by 2050, that there's going to be another 25% of the human population is going to be living in urban centers on a grid. So who knows where we're moving with all of this? It's hard to say.
When you were younger and when you were growing up, were there any like jewels that your mom or dad dropped on you that stand out, or did they ever kind of like sit you down and explain stuff? Because I got a lot of that, just in that my mom and dad always made sure that I was in nature, and a lot of that was, we didn't necessarily have money to always go and do stuff, but if you were in nature, it didn't matter because you would just create stuff to do. Nature itself was the adventure, and it kind of balanced us. But in Oregon schools, they would kind of sit you down, at least of my generation. I was born in 95. So that era of when I was in elementary school, they would take us to places like farms, on field trips, and really kind of ingrain in us recycling. Recycling was a huge thing. But at the same time, they would do other shit too in the schools, like give us fluoride. Like everybody had to take the fluoride.
Yeah, makes the bones strong, but also calcifies the pineal gland. So yeah, people are so they act first, think later. I mean, I don't know if my parents actually taught me anything more than just living free in nature, but also not being very cognizant of how the rest of the world works. You're in a little bubble when you live in rural Maine, very isolated, least populated county in the state of Maine, 2nd largest county in the state. So very sparsely populated area. When we would take our trash, we'd take it to the dump, which was a quarry, and they would throw all the trash in, and then like once every couple months they would burn the trash, and you could smell it from like 5-10 miles away. And that was like the water table as well. And that changed, I think, in the early 90s. The town closer into the biggest town, which is only about 5,000 people, they put in a wastewater treatment program in 1991. Before that, when you would flush your toilet, you could watch the waste go out into the river, the Piscataquis River, which was the big river in our county. So basically the shit just went right down the river. I think that was less detrimental than when the mills started using treatment chemicals for it was a lot of woodworking mills and stuff in that area. They've all since dried up, but completely contaminated the rivers by, all of the waterways right now are completely contaminated. But finding a clean source of water is really hard. We had that, and in Maine, there was Poland Springs, which most people know that name as a commercial brand that's owned by Nestle. But Poland Springs is one of the most pristine waterways in the country, and Nestle is another topic we could go on for hours, but Nestle has gone in and sucked the water supplies dry in a lot of places in the world and then sells it back to people who have no water and contributed to all this plastic waste. So the thing that was instilled with me at a young age is just being present in nature. It's something I lost contact with over time. Didn't have cell phones, wasn't living in this digital technological age. It was definitely an analog age where computers and video games like the old Atari 2600 or ColecoVision, that was like a once in a while thing. It was like, now it's like everything is at home on your screen, streaming through a widescreen TV, and I don't know. The world has changed so much, and to my mind, it's made things a lot more convenient, and it's made the world a lot more connected. But I don't think that it's necessarily made our quality of life any better. But we'll see.
I agree, man. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I was watching a documentary about Nintendo versus Sega, and how kids, behind the advertising and this whole war of ingenuity almost and creativity really affected people in a way that was positive and detrimental, and I think everything is inextricably tied, so there's always going to be the death of one thing with the life of another, to a certain extent. And I've said this multiple times on the podcast, but I don't think people might have caught it. But when we become at peace with the nature of war, we'll be able to move towards resolution. First within ourselves,
It's true.
And, we just need to try and choose our intention first. My mom, one of the jewels my mom dropped on me, she said, everything boils down to two emotions, and that's fear or love. And behind everything, if you strip the layers back enough, there's two motivating forces, and it's either going to be fear or love, and both are very human, and it takes a level of vulnerability and honesty to show people where you're scared and to understand that in your walk through life, you will be called to situations where you're inadequate. So the strength that comes through you, through your spirit, is so connected to God and everything bigger than you, the energy source of all of the universe and all of creation, and all of life, whatever you want to call it, religion or not, I don't know what else to call it. It's God, And when you're called to these situations where you are inadequate and forced to go back to the very things that have crushed you before, and believe again. And you can't help but believe, but something is there's an emotion when you can actually align with your belief, and that's faith. It's like the belief can't stop. That's hope. It just can't stop egging you on. But if you're not doing something and you can't get yourself to do something quick enough, you always have to do something, and then it's like the faith hits you in motion. And it's always beyond your fingertips and what you're reaching for. Just forever beyond it, And so I guess, in life, we just got to keep pressing forward. And are there any things that have kept you pressing forward at times that stand out?
Just trying to serve more people and be less concerned with my own needs. Obviously, you can't pour from a cup that's not full, so you want to take care of yourself. Self-love, self-care is important. A lot of people have this sort of martyr mindset where they have to help everybody else, but they don't have their shit together. So getting myself to be a more fully integrated human being to start with, being in touch with God, having some kind of faith in something bigger than yourself, and not having to explain it or understand it, just sitting in that quiet moment with yourself, that's key. And so to grow, there's always room for growth, and life is always like right now, if I want to be honest with myself, my body is like starting to get older and I'm starting to age, and I'm gonna stave off the aging process as best I can, because after going through a brain cancer diagnosis and chronic epilepsy and all of this other stuff I've been through, it's like, what's more important to me right now? And I know people can get they can overthink, or they can be too meticulous about their diet, and that creates a level of its own stress and anxiety. So I think the principle is, once you know better, then it's your obligation to move on that and do better, and always be learning. And when you're learning, also be teaching, because when you're teaching other people and sharing with other people, not just for your own ego's sake to be the one to have to speak and show everybody stuff, but when you're teaching people, you're also becoming a student twice over, because you're regurgitating that lesson plan, and repetition is the mother of all skill. So it's about wash, rinse, repeat. If you have a message that you want to share, keep saying it over and over again. You might think you're being repetitive, and some people might, but you're going to reach that one person out there that needs to hear it. And that's where real change happens, is being consistent, persistent, and always being vulnerable, and learning that, like, maybe what I know isn't true. Like, always question your belief system, no matter what it is. No matter if you like, a lot of people in Portland are very far onto the left of the spectrum as far as, what they believe. It's very dogmatic, like they hate the right wing, and the other parts of the country is the same on the other end. So it's like, we have to come together and find what our real inner truth is, not looking around. There's a lot of groupthink going on in our world. We need to look at, like, what do I feel? When your body is clean and your mind is clear, you can just ask yourself, and your body will tell you what's good, what's not, what feels right, what doesn't. A lot of people aren't honoring their health. Well, health just basically means whole, the same etymology of the two words. So when you look at health, like, how whole are you? How fully integrated are you? And we can all use improvements on becoming more integrated as we grow older. And they say that the youth is wasted on the young, because, when I was your age, man, I wasn't nearly as profound as, you are. And at my age now, I feel like I'm just starting to wake up, and I'm meeting people like you that are younger, that actually are way ahead of the curve of where I was when I was younger. So with all the darkness comes the light, and man, you're just really bringing forth a lot of knowledge to people on your platform. And just through the person that you are, you're very mature, emotionally mature, and adept for someone that's like your age. I see a lot of people when I was your age, they had no clue. They're just out partying. So the alcohol thing, just to touch on I didn't answer that before, but I got into brewing because I've always been a mad chemist. When I was a little kid, I used to mix every single thing in the kitchen together and just try it with a little taste. And it was poison. But then I would be like, as I got older, I started like fermenting. I like to ferment things. I'd make kombucha, and I would do all these different things. Like, before kombucha was a thing, I make like vinegars. And then I really had a passion, I think it was for my mom, about herbalism, because she used to know all the names of all the plants that she would grow and know how to put marigold in a garden. So that was kind of ingrained in me, and I never lost that. Even through that whole time where I was drinking and kind of escapism through the alcohol or whatever it was, social lubrication, I was still making my own herbal tea concoctions. I loved herbs, herbalism, and also was drinking, like making smoothies. I loved blending fruits and vegetables and like different things. And when I got into the idea of optimizing my own health, I found the company that I work with now, and we have like the greatest protocol for, gut cleansing, nourishment, and maintenance for the body. And that's really what all life is about. It's all about getting rid of that which doesn't serve us. That changes all the time. You might be in a relationship with a woman or a man, and you come to a realization one day, I've outgrown this relationship, or they feel that way about you, and then it's over. And then it's like, okay, back to focusing on my own personal development, because I'm not them and they're not me. And it's a hard slap in the face when someone leaves, or you decide you have to leave. And then you move and you evolve, hopefully. Some people get set back and they go backwards. But for us, we are we're biohackers in some way. We're always trying to learn and figure out new stuff. I think that's why you have this platform right here, is to garner more knowledge and more information. It's not just about knowledge, it's the implementation of knowledge that is wisdom. And that's what we're looking for in our life, is some type of meaning, because human beings are meaning making machines. We like to quantify, qualify, pigeonhole, extrapolate some type of meaning. That's why we have science, so we can label every type of species of every single thing and, you know, pin it to a board. Like, that's what human beings do. And then by doing that, our curiosity killed the cat. It's kind of putting us backwards. We just have to be present with where we are, and being healthy is everything. It's just as much about what we do as what we don't do. And that's it. It's always a balance, and life is like riding a bicycle. Like, if you go one way too far, you're going to fall off, but you got to kind of like go back. It's like walking, you know, you're falling all the time when you're walking. You just have to keep it going. And that's what life is. Every moment is like, could be the last. You never know. So being present is huge, but that's hard to do. It's hard to do.
It's really amazing, and I want to say thank you, not only for what you said earlier, but just for being who you are, because you're such an inspiration. And one of the most beautiful things is, like, I would never, ever, ever describe or think about you as any diagnosis that you've said that you live through and live with, you know, because you're so purpose driven and you are so present. Like, when I was walking, all right, so when you're on Woodstock in Portland and you go into new seasons, there's always someone at the door, whether they're sitting there playing an instrument with a hat out, or they're selling, you know, the street roots, or whatever it is, you know, the Black Lives Matter people pull up. There's all different kinds of people that are there, you know. But when you were there, I was just like, I was walking in and I was already having a good day, like, and I was kind of on a time crunch. I was trying to get back home within the hour. But as I like turned, you had just smiled at me, and it was just you and your mom just sitting there just smiling. And I was like, I'm an asshole if I don't come and hang out for a second, you know. Like, I just you looked at me that genuine, you know. And I'm so honored that you could be here, because it's your testimony and just who you are, you know, and keeping it going, you know, and being like, you know what, fuck that. And there's someone very dear to me in my life, in my family, that has epilepsy, you know, and it's a very rare form with like no known trigger and stuff. And so learning that every single time I see this person and I'm present with this person and can just hear this person breathe is a blessing, you know? And you understand life with a different level of like intricacy and nature, and are just attuned to like the essence of what people need right now. That, like, for you to be here is awesome, bro. Like, it's awesome for us. And anyone listening has probably already had their mind fucking blown.
I've
Like,
had my mind blown like 5 times already. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you gotta be a cat to survive this podcast, bro. This is killing them.
Thank you so much, you guys. Really, I mean, you guys have so much to share as well, and thank you for the empowerment, and thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, like, I'm here to try and give the real of everything on both sides, but really show people that to be a strong man or woman, to be a good person, is to show where you're weak in honesty. You know, like, I'm still sitting here despite what you said, drinking this Gatorade like an asshole, because I got my own shit to figure out, you know, and figuring out how not to buy Gatorade in the summertime is a real thing that like 99% of Americans are going to experience if they choose to truly embark on this path and embrace it. And some will do it to more of a degree, others to less of a degree, or there's things where they'll compromise. But once you know better, it's not that you necessarily do better right away. Once you have an emotional switch, you do better.
Yeah.
You can know it all the time and just be feel guilty and shameful and go through it and know better the whole fucking time. But it's not until you're emotionally ready to switch. And my yogi friend, he told me, and I've said this a couple times before, but I'm interested to hear your take on this. He said, attachment, like when we feel we need something, it's generally because of an attachment, and it's not, and it's a want, but not a need, you know? And when you're attached to something, it blinds you. It hyper focuses you on this one thing, and you can't actually take in what is, you know, in the true perspective of everything. So we become attached to emotions and addicted to a certain kind of emotion before
Yeah.
we're willing to switch. And our dharma is to kind of learn how to navigate this, and the yogi learns how to understand what they feel but disconnect enough that they can see the situation for what it is and choose to act. And there's no right or wrong in the choice. It's just you'll naturally choose where your spirit has evolved to, you know?
Yeah.
But you can only do so from a detached emotional state because
That's
you're
the
choosing to do it, but not for an emotionally driven.
No, that's the key, man. What do they call it? Upadana or something like that. In Buddhism, they're talking about a detachment. It's about dissolution of the ego. It's about, sitting in quietude and stillness. And when you become attached, like for me, I'm going through a separation right now, and it's already kind of, the relationship is over and that we're not together anymore, but still releasing. It's about letting go over and over again. And same with our dreams and our goals. We have to work hard for our dreams. We also have to let go, be heavily focused on the effort, but be totally detached from the outcome. It's about enjoying the process more than it is about being focused on the outcome, because the outcome is a symptom of the process and how we handle the process. So yeah, that's a very good point, man. That's a very big cornerstone of Buddhism and life in general. To be happy is to just like do things without expectation as well, like being kind to people, like when no one's looking, like that's big. Like it's hard to do because the ego is like, look at me, look what I'm doing, look how I help all these people, look how great I am, I want acknowledgement. So you're right. I mean, that's just so profound what you said.
You just said something huge. You said the outcome of the situation is a symptom of how you handle going through it.
The more people you serve in any profession, I don't care if it's real estate or if it's selling superfoods, the more people that you help, like you help them, it's not about you getting something, it's the more people you serve, that the symptom is going to be like more money, more happiness, more whatever that payment is. That's all energy. And money is called currency for a reason. It's energy. It's like you're getting that from your service to others. You're directly, you look at your paycheck, that's usually correlated to the amount that you serve other people. And if you're working at like a McDonald's flipping hamburgers all day long, then you're not really serving the world, because you're just basically doing it for that, whatever they pay now an hour. And, yeah, so it's about what's your purpose. If you dare to dream and do the things that really align with who you want to be, being the greatest podcaster that you want to be, whatever it is, as long as it has purpose. You want to be a NBA basketball player, but you can't jump and you're 60 years old and you're 5 feet tall, then you can still involve yourself in basketball in some capacity and affect people's lives and find joy from that field. So it doesn't matter. It's not always going to be your maybe ultimate dream, but you have to come into alignment what your destiny is within your own dream.
That's actually kind of crazy, because Kemper and I went to film school, and we were taught that in our second year of film school. We were taught that maybe being a director or being a director of photography isn't your thing, but you can always find another piece of the puzzle within the film world to be associated with, whether it be writing or producing or something like that. And that's crazy. And I've even made different jumps throughout my time doing film and video. I went from wanting to be a videographer to wanting to make like narrative films and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, then I went from that to wanting to be a director and then writing. And now that my eyes are kind of falling off, I'm looking more at producing. So it's like all these
Well,
different
bro,
jumps I'm making.
yeah. And the cool thing too is that like your life is your movie. And when you start living it as such, like I have the ability to be all different aspects. I can be different characters, you know? Like I know for myself, I'm someone who has very different friends, you know, that they if I put all my friends together, it would probably be a fucking riot. But you know,
right.
like I can go between all of them myself, you
Yeah.
know, because that's just who I am, you know, that's an aspect of me, you know, that makes me who I am and is a part of my life. And in no way do I anymore try and like take the door and kind of like close it here, open this one. I'm like, I'm just leaving them all open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, man. What Zach was saying too, though, he's talking about vertical integration of like whatever the field is, whatever the thought or the philosophy is, like knowing it all, like being as fully integrated in the process as you can be. Like even being a content creator on social media, you become the actor, you become the director, you become the cinematographer because you're running the whole show. A lot of these great filmmakers, they started off doing everything, right? They would pick a chair like Robert Rodriguez or whoever and just like use that as their dolly. You know, they would do like very rudimentary practices. And what you're also talking about, Kemper, is I think it ties right into all that. I mean, just being free. Like basically it's all about just being free and accepting that you can do whatever you want to. You don't have to be comparing yourself to somebody else in the industry. If you want to make film or you want to do it, you can do it on a scale that you want to do it. And if you're persistent enough, you will do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Besides maybe being the NBA as a starter. Yeah.
well, hey, fuck that. You can go to an old man league and ball on somebody.
Yeah, bro.
You go to a 65-year-old league and at least just block people once a season. And everybody be like, oh, you finally did it. Carl's fucking going up.
So I mean, all of our expressions of who we are. I mean, you talked about the different parts of us, and like I've studied internal family systems, which is a teaching of Dr. Richard Schwartz from Boston. He talks a lot about this psychodramatic work, and we are made of many different parts and many different personalities. So when you say you bring people into a room and they're so different from one another, think about all the different parts within yourself. You have this person that's chill, you have a person that's fiery, you have a person that's an addict, you have a person that's this or that, whatever it is. People are made up, but then within all of that, though, you have a true north. You know, you have that wise self, or whatever you want to call it, that self with a capital S. What is that? How does that align with the higher vibration? As you mentioned, love is the highest vibration. Love and companies, service, gratitude, and then down at the bottom, the lowest frequencies is grief and fear and depression and anger. And so basically want to try to keep ourselves here at the love frequency, and that people will like laugh at you because we live in a sick society right now. That people are going to make fun of people that are into love and into, you know, health, because that's not normal right now. People are in a heightened fear state.
I think the most like the bottom of the spectrum is helplessness. Helplessness, I think, is the most unsettling, disturbing, uncomfortable emotion that goes so against the nature of all of our spirit, and that is free will, you know? And I think what people don't understand about forgiveness and kindness is when you learn how to master yourself, and to the point where it's like, I no longer have to allow someone else to hold power over me, because I can take this feeling of being violated and I'm so good with myself and my rationalization, my ability to de-escalate this situation with myself and choose a better perspective, something that actually serves me rather than something that steals my joy and my
Yeah.
self-confidence, you know? And sometimes to do that, it's what you see in your spirit is a premonition of, or what you feel in your spirit is like a premonition of the future, you know, because as you unravel that faith and you start to develop yourself in these ways, it unfolds, and you can then see, oh shit, you recognize it all of a sudden. I asked for that, and now I am that, I'm that, you know what I mean? I'm the magnet of that, because that's definitely for me, you know. And that's like self-confidence, and you take it back. You take it back by being willing to love again, and you can't do that when you feel that someone has hurt you and got away. And I
Everything that appears in the external world is a reflection of what's happening in the internal world. I mean, like your anger, your everything. It's responsibility. It's your ability to respond to situation. No one makes you feel any way. No one breaks your heart. No one makes you feel love. That's all you. That's all you. And people don't acknowledge that power within themselves. That you can, when you feel sad or whatever you feel, it's a chemical reaction in your body. If you can't control your own body, what do you have control over? Nothing, because you create that yourself. Like, obviously, if someone leaves you and steals all your money and says and takes the kids or whatever, then of course you're gonna feel that pain. Like, of course, but like, still, it's still your own responsibility. If someone dies, it's like life. The only thing that's certain in life is that nothing is certain and everything is impermanent.
it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, I think what you know for certain is your current intention, that you, whatever place you stand on emotionally before you spearhead this mission into whatever it is, a thought, actual physical situation, or whatever, it's always your intention, you know. You can go, I found myself in plenty of situations where, although I was there and there were people that were angry, I wasn't necessarily like there to, I couldn't get angry because of my intention, you know. It's like the stance that I took was like, yo, everybody chill, you know. There's no way for me to get angry in that moment. I've also had that shit turn on me, because sometimes you're like, yo, and then the situation is like, well, who the fuck are you? And then and that's understanding your level of influence, you know. If you're not firmly rooted in what you feel, there's no reason to say it yet to other people. Like, cherish that, like, nurture that within yourself until you're confident enough for it to leak out. It's just gonna topple out of the, it's gonna overflow out of you, you know, if you keep stuffing that shit down in there. And at first it might feel like you're going crazy, but what we need to understand is, like, it's awkward to connect to your spirit if you've been disconnected, or you thought you're disconnected, you know, when in fact we're always getting this emotional feedback, we're always getting these thoughts, we're always being drawn to these situations that reflect and teach us where we are and where we're trying to go. And where we're trying to go is just like that true north, as you would say. It's the backdrop of all this. This is the metric of everything that all things are hung on, is you getting what you truly have defined that you want, you know. And that other portion of it is like where you are now in relationship to that, frequency wise. You don't have to be there physically to be there frequency wise, you know. Like, that's why love knows no bound in space. And when you truly become in touch with your pineal gland, you do recognize, when you quiet yourself and you think on somebody, when you're truly connected to their spirit, you can feel that feedback. You know they're thinking of you. You know they recognize that. Thank you, dude. Thank you. Sorry, my brother dropped off some dinner for me.
It's all good, bro.
man.
I'm about to munch in front of you guys. I'm sorry because it's hot.
Hey, it's pizza, bro.
I've got to. I'm gonna have to go in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
But I really appreciate this opportunity to be here and share with you guys and listen to you guys share as well. Thank you.
For sure. I
Yeah,
appreciate
dude,
you.
you are welcome. Anytime, as you make more discoveries, if there's more you got to say, just hit me up, bro. You can come back. But before you get out of here, I'd like to know, any closing thoughts or sentiments that you might have that you want to express to the people. B, I want to say thank you again and let you know how eloquent a speaker you are. C, we need your handles and stuff like that sent over. And we're going to try and help promote everything that you do that you feel is poignant that you throw our way. So we respect you and you have the floor.
Thank you guys again. Thank you, Kemper. Thank you, Zack. My most important mission right now is health, and that just is like being more fully integrated. I focus on nutritional health and gut health because I think that's a huge place to start. As you grow older, you're going to realize that your body doesn't function the way it used to function. You won't have the resiliency of Gatorades and pizza, but enjoy it for now, for sure. But also be cognizant of the groundwork required to lay for the future of your body. This is your spacesuit. This is your one ride. This is your Lamborghini Countach Quattrovalva 5000. You want to put the premium in the tank. So if anyone out there wants the pure and premium, like this is my ego or my calling. I'm here to promote my business because my business aligns with my truth, which I feel great about because like you said earlier, what's the lower vibration? What's the lowest vibration is hopelessness or purposelessness. That's lower, apathy, lack of care at all. And so many people are like eating McDonald's and throwing their shit on the ground and just walking. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't care about themselves. They don't care about others. And that's almost worse than anger and fear and hate because at least those are visceral feelings. Those are they appeal to a deeper sense of self. People that are just apathetic and they're just zombies living in the world. We want to get people out of that. We want people to feel good and feel purpose in their life. So nutrition is a great way to feel a way that you never thought you could feel before. And for me, that was the most profound change that I made in my life was cleansing my body and really starting to love this vessel that I am in, that I'm housed in, because it's everything. I mean, it controls your thoughts. It controls the pineal. That's all connected to the mind, body, spirit. It's all one. So optimizing your health and doing some exercise, movement, good sleep, connection, love with people. It's all about feeling good and trying to maintain those higher vibrations. But when something else creeps in and life inevitably always will bring something to your doorstep that you didn't expect, like you're like juggling all these balls in your life. My brother used to say this: some of the balls are rubber and they'll bounce back, but some of them are made of crystal, and when you drop those, they'll shatter. And then, so health is one of those ones I treat like a crystal ball. Like, don't skimp on your health ever. Like, ever. I don't care if you are living on food stamps. I don't care if you are working a job that you can barely afford to feed your family. Make sure that you're nourishing them at the highest level, because that will make all of the change in their life. And I learned that from my mother, because when you know better, you have to do better. Like, that's the bottom line. Going past the needs. Like, I have a little tobacco once in a while. That's like my little guilty pleasure. But anything you need to have rest or break from. Like, if you think you might be addicted to anything, I used to be addicted to porn. I used to watch it every day. And now I'm it's about saving that life force energy. It's easy to just give it all away. But really, that's you, that's your force, that's your chi, that's your prana, that's your life force energy. So, every way, try to maintain that integrity within yourself and share with the right people who are receptive to the message. People want to hear about what you have to share. Like, those are your people. You can't wake everybody up. There's a lot of people sleeping right now that are on so many levels, on so many topics. But right now we see it since the pandemic. We see so many people that are asleep. They're just going straight to big pharma. They're going straight to fear, that vibration. They're going to put their mask on in their car, and they're going to drive around and triple mask in a car, whatever it is. It's all about love, man. It's all about fearlessness. It's all about daring to be great. So this is what your podcast, to me, seems to be, is about daring to be the highest version of yourself. So if anyone out there is watching this and they want to optimize their health and nutrition, I have a solution. I guarantee my solution. It's worked for me. I'm a living testament of my path that I've been on. So I'm always looking for new things. If anyone has a better solution than the ones that I've found so far, I'm totally open to hear it. But from what I know so far, being my own study, that's what Bruce Lee says. All knowledge is self-knowledge. So forget what anyone else says. What do you feel? How do you feel? How optimal are you in your own life? And that's it, really. Like, study all of the masters and then extrapolate from each which things work for you and create your own unique mastery. That's all we can do. We're all representations and incarnations of one another. And that's it. I am you, you are me. We're all each other in this world. And that group of friends that you talked about earlier, those are all pieces of you, because we're all mirrors of each other. And let's honor that. Let's honor ourselves.
We could not have closed this out.
That was amazing.
And if someone doesn't believe or buy what the fuck you're offering, they're an asshole. And I guarantee you. No, I'm just telling you, after that, if you don't feel that one from the heart, all right, you need to get some of this in your gut, because it'll turn you around, okay? And
Nice.
so we're gonna drop Angelo's info, and we thank you. And I mean that in the most sincere way, because for real, you just smacked that out of the park. That you are
Phenomenal.
really leading the happy hoodlums. Like, I think we're always on the precipice of the next best thing, and you have definitely set that bar notches higher than it's been. So
Well,
thank
you guys attracted me in here. Just meeting you, Kemper, your light shines bright, and I'm honored to meet you too, Zack. Thank you guys for inviting me into your sacred space. I really appreciate it.
Sure, man.
Yep. All right, have a good one.
Later,
All right,
guys.
y'all.